Welcome to Nuuness TV, a web series where leading ladies in athletic performance discuss the truths, challenges, and opportunities in being an active female participant in sport. I'm Emma Coburn, Olympic steeplechase medalist and your host for Nuuness TV. Meet Emily Schromm. Emily is a personal trainer, nutritional therapy practitioner, and a serial entrepreneur who helps others empower themselves by way of food and movement. As an educator in the space, her 5 companies span 3 verticals of business, including online programming, physical products, and a brick-and-mortar gym. So before we get started, Emily brought a little treat for us to dive into here. So
are you ready?
Take it away. Yeah.
All right. So it's not too woo-woo, but I figured with the Nuuness, we should pull a goddess card. So these are my goddess oracle deck cards, just like good little omens of what you might need to know for the day or for the week or for the month or for your next race.
How often do you pull cards?
I go by feeling, but I have quite a few different decks.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really deep into the woo-woo.
You brought us the best today.
I brought you the best.
All right. No. Okay, we're freaking out because we pulled one earlier just to see what this was about, and I pulled this exact card. And then she just shuffled the deck again.
Do you want me to read it to you?
Yes. So just this is Irene Peace. There's no need to worry as everything is working out beautifully. And this is wild because she just shuffled the deck and I've pulled this card twice today.
This is so good. Okay, so even though appearances may seem chaotic, I assure you that a higher plan is in action. This all-loving power is carrying and supporting you completely. Relax into the arms of divine love and breathe away all cares, concerns, and worries. Put your focus into enjoying and appreciate each blessing. Your gratitude helps you attract even more.
I will have more gratitude. That's so cool.
I love that you got that.
What's yours going to be?
All right. I don't know, this little buggy. There we go.
Sorry, guy.
So you can just, this gets really woo-woo, but I usually shuffle. Here, I'll have you hold it for me and I'll pull one.
Do I need to shuffle for you?
No. Okay. We can just kind of grab. I trust you. Let's take this one. Oh, I feel like this is my doppelganger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it definitely was drawn as you.
Bridget, don't back down. Stand up for what you believe is right.
Very cool. Very cool.
I love it. Yeah, those are our goddess cards.
This was a fun activity. I'll keep my girl out for sure. So we're just going to jump right in. Emily has a very busy, successful, crazy life. And if you haven't listened to it yet, highly recommend her Meathead Hippie podcast. I listened to it for a couple hours, 3 or 4 episodes straight yesterday, and it was fascinating and totally a lot of different topics, but it really gives you a great insight to who you are. So I love that. That was awesome.
Thank you. I'm so glad you listened.
All right. So can you take us back to the beginning, how it all started, where you first became attracted to movement and enjoying movement?
That's a good question to start us off. I really feel like in some ways I've always been addicted to movement, some more structured than others. So as a kid growing up playing sports, I would play anything and everything that I could. And I was always the tomboy or like the athletic one, but never really knew what that meant, just knew I really enjoyed doing it. And it really wasn't until this experience that happened when I was in college of being picked to be on a reality TV show that really threw me to this loop of movement became a necessity to feel grounded and to feel like when everything else was a whirlwind, I had a home base.
That was your control.
It was my control, right? So it was something that at first was just, I wanted to do it and it felt good. But then after watching myself on this TV show and realizing that for most of my life, I have avoided anything uncomfortable, looking in the mirror or deleting pictures as fast as possible because I didn't like the way I looked. I have always, even at a young age, remember feeling too big for my body. I was really tall. I had thighs, by 9. So I grew fast and it meant I could kick a soccer ball really far.
Right.
But when it came to me versus everybody else, I didn't fit. And so I always felt a little too awkward in my skin. And saw it as a weakness. I saw it as something I had to fix and change and be smaller and always wished I looked a different way. And so seeing myself on TV and realizing that no matter what I did, that feeling was going to be there. And I at first attempted to run away from it. I wanted nothing to do with the show. I didn't watch it. I had a really hard time processing what it meant for me, at 20 years old, seeing this person on TV that I didn't like, along with millions of other people. So I ran away. I actually moved to the mountains. It was perfect.
Finding peace in the mountains.
Yeah.
Find some peace.
I did. But it was so short-lived because it was, again, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. Let's just move out of it. And so I was always trying to get away from the feeling of sitting in something that made me just not happy. So finally, realizing that I'm just going to run away the rest of my life because I'm in Colorado. It's a beautiful place to be, but I still am starting to get that unsettledness. It's not the environment I was in. It was finally this epiphany that it was who I was. It was me, myself, that I was running away from. Mm-hmm. And that was really hard because it was, what do you do at that point? You just, you have to sit and deal with it. So I remember very vividly looking in the mirror and thinking I could run away or run to try to be somebody that I see on a magazine or that I see on a TV show or that I see, in a cover or wherever it was, whatever in that moment felt like I wish I could be that, or I could just do the best I can and be the best possible version of myself. And I remember so vividly feeling like for the first time going to the gym was like I was empowered to do it. It was like, oh my gosh, what can I do here? What can I try? What can I push myself to see if I can do, not to compare to anybody else, but to know that I could be a little bit better. Be the best
version of yourself and challenge yourself. I totally agree with the attraction to movement of being this challenge that you can get the absolute peak from yourself. And it's not about what someone else is doing and competing in track. I don't compare to what my peers are doing. I just really work on being my best self. And it's cool that we get to do that through exercise and movement. And then there's so much peace and pride through that you can find, and that control too.
Yes. Yeah. And it's so fun to finally feel proud of yourself, right? We live our whole life either trying to make someone else happy or try to hit a certain standard of society. And those moments that we have where we're like, oh my gosh, I did this. Nobody else did. I did this because I showed up or I put in the work or because I saw something that made me uncomfortable. And instead of running away from it, I faced it. Those moments are just, they're transformative, internal and external.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. So in your movement journey, you did participate in CrossFit. And what are some of the lessons you learned about yourself or about others through that whole experience?
Yeah, so getting into kind this is about 10 years ago of really understanding that structured movement can really transform your body internally and externally. It was this, kind of light bulb moment where I'm like, well, what am I going to do with my life? I guess I'm going to be a personal trainer, which I used to judge, like the personal trainers that were my friends. I'm like, you just don't know what you want to do with your life. Just go through this phase. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, this is actually perfect because I feel like I was looking for answers in all the wrong places. And if I could give someone the answer a little bit faster in their own journey, that they have all the tools in themselves, they don't have to keep looking for it externally. That's my mission, right? Let me help somebody get there sooner than I did. And so starting the journey of being a personal trainer, and really kind of the pendulum just swung completely the other way, where it was, oh, I can do movement because I'm doing it and I love it and I feel capable and I feel strong. And then it turned into, oh my God, this is an addiction. If I don't have this, who am I? If I don't do this, I'm worthless. So it really did go this other direction, and CrossFit very much fueled that addiction because you are timing everything, which you could relate to in more ways, but you're timing everything. You have tangible evidence of how you did from the time before. Mm-hmm. And so there's this constant level of, I could be better. I could always do more. And that really, at some point, at first it was really healthy and great. And then it kind of turned into, it consumed me because it's the same way feeling strong in the gym translates to feeling strong in my career and in my life. So does I don't feel good enough in the gym translates to I don't feel good enough.
If you're not hitting those metrics, you would doubt who you are as a person.
So deep down, like it's your root, it's your core. And so it really affected my psyche in a way that like my body just was telling me all these signs of this isn't healthy. This is not good for you. This hurts. Don't push yourself through this. Your body's tired. Maybe you should take a rest day. But it was like, no, the other person's not taking a rest day. I could do that more. So as much as CrossFit really taught me these beautiful components of getting into Olympic lifting for the first time and really looking at what the body can do, not what the body looks like, which are all beautiful and wonderful in any capacity that happens. I support it. But it very quickly went the other way for me, where as a very intense competitor, I just wanted to win at every cost. And that was okay for me to break my body in order to do so. And so there were some goods and some bads, but it was definitely a big part of how I got into what is, for me, understanding what my body is telling me matters more than what anybody else does.
And that's a great segue to my next question about the Body Awareness Project, which is more of the holistic approach on more of the opposite of what you're saying, of that competitive comparing to other people, more looking at each individual and seeing how to become your best individual self through a holistic approach. Talk about that. What got you into that?
Yeah, so I started kind of the first training nutrition business in 2012, and that's really all I did. I wanted to get people to move and lift and become fat adapted and learn about how food affects so much, but it was a very kind of snack bite program, which was good, but to me, there's so much more to the story. And really understanding when I launched the second company, which was the backpack company, on Kickstarter, and kind of learning this whole product development, like, what am I doing? I'm figuring this all out on my own. I have no idea what to do. You just pivot until you find the right answer. My body stopped doing what I thought it could do. So it wasn't just physical performance that started suffering, but I started getting really chronic SI pain where I couldn't even snowboard, which was like the reason I lived in Colorado. Waking up took about 7 shots of espresso. And even then it was like the brain fog, the phase, and I was just struggling to get through the day. So it was this moment where I did that for a while, and finally it was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Like, I'm supposed to be the trainer and nutritionist that's helping people feel their best, and I am literally struggling through my day and thinking that it's glorifying it in some way, that I was busy and that I was trying new things and I was, launching a new business. And so on paper, it looked great and glamorous, but my body was shutting down completely. And it took a lot of me falling off that cliff to finally realize this is never going to end until I actually change some patterns that I have. And the way that I did that is by finally feeling like I lived in a do state, right? I'm always doing, I'm always on the go. I have a vision. I have kind of a, end goal. I'm going to get it. There's nothing that's going to stop me. So doing always was successful for me until that point where it was like, doing isn't helping. It's actually backfiring. I'm starting to, the more I do, the worse I feel. Mm-hmm. So it kind of left me at this bottom of the barrel feeling like, oh my gosh, this is how I've lived my life and I don't know my identity anymore.
You needed a solution.
I needed a solution, and it couldn't be movement. Exercise was always my stress relief. It was my solution. It was my outlet. And so I started understanding, if you think of it as a triangle, and this is just so perfect with like the Nuuness and the goddess and like the female power, is we really have, if we're going to manifest anything, better body, better time, better career, more money, if you're really looking at kind of the big picture of what you want in life, the first part of the triangle is do, which I think we're really good at. We can do anything. Like, give it to us, we'll task it, we'll do it. But the harder parts for me are the feel and the know. And feeling, it means really feeling the good as well as really sitting in the bad. And the knowing that I'm not doing it for anybody else except for me. And even without it, I would be just as valuable. I would be just as worthy. And that was the hard part for me, of understanding that it didn't matter how many businesses I had. My body was going to shut down unless I had all 3 of those components. So it started by just simply feeling. I need to listen to my body's cues before it's too late, because we're really reactive, but we're not preventative. And I don't know if that'll ever change in society, right? We're always going to react to something and really care once it's a little too late. But learning that we can be reactive and then noticing those cues a little bit sooner is progress, right? I know what it's like to fall off the cliff. So now I know what it's like when my toe's off the cliff instead of the whole body falling off, you know? So really, the Body Awareness Project was this moment of, I am truly aware of my body. It doesn't mean that I'm listening to what somebody else's cues are of burnout or crash and burn or adrenal dysfunction or overtraining. I'm not, that's their story, but what are my cues? And we sometimes forget to listen because it means we have to sit in the shit. And that just isn't fun, Yeah. So it really was this exploration of how can I give someone all the tools so that they can make it bio-individual, because it isn't a one size fits all. And as soon as you let that go, you realize like you have all the answers. We just tend to layer it and layer it and layer it. And we have to pull through those layers to get to the core. And some of those layers are crappy foods. Some of it's, drinking soda. Some of those layers are the story we tell ourselves, overtraining, not sitting in things. There's so much depth when it comes to fitness and nutrition. It's never just move more and eat healthy, right? You really start to unravel these pieces.
And not comparing to what other people are doing. And that comparison is the thief of joy. Like having
Teddy Roosevelt,
comparing to what my competitors are doing or in track, or what your business competitors are doing, or what your buddies are doing. You can't, everyone's body is different, everyone's heart is different, everyone's mind is different. So you really have to be able to focus on yourself.
It's
for
so
sure.
hard.
So that's nice that you have something to try and, get people to be aware of that for sure.
But God, isn't it hard? Like you want, part of it is this level of, you have to see competition in any capacity to know where to go next, right?
Right.
But you also have
competition is great because it pushes you and inspires you and motivates you, but you have to be able to be proud of yourself and happy for yourself, even if you can't be exactly what you think you need to be.
Totally.
So you have 5 businesses and you have figured out your personal balance with your cliff. I was going to say more positive way, but the balance that you need to maintain for your movement and your happiness and health. And so how do you not only have 5 successful businesses, but how do you avoid that burnout? Is it through things like this? Is it through your community? Is it through naps? What is it?
That's it's a little different every day. Lots of woo-woo, lots of noon. But I really think what it comes down to is that I cannot ever have these excessive expectations on myself, because I've done that for so long, and all it did was make me feel guilty for not being enough, or shameful because I didn't do enough. Like the list wasn't completed, therefore I'm a failure. And so I've really learned that the smallest things are the biggest things. And that took me so long to realize, because when I want something done, I want it done now. And I see where the business should go. And I am, 5 backpacks ahead of what's currently selling. So it's being content with what I know is going to be true and what will be the future, without hating what is currently happening.
You have to be happy in the moment and appreciate the positives that happen now, while still like being hungry for the future.
For sure.
And I think that's where a lot of people get burnt out, is that it's this,
you're always in the future.
You're always in the future, and then you are desperate to get there so quickly that you just kill yourself. And
you do.
Yeah.
And you're at the top of the mountain, even though it's not your mountain, but somebody else might be like, that's amazing, you're at the top of this mountain. And to you, you're like, this isn't even halfway, right?
Yeah.
So this feels, it really you never get there. And so when I finally realized, I think I said it on the podcast you listened to, it's like the light at the end of the tunnel never gets closer. And when you realize that, you let go of everything that is what will be and what it'll look like once you're there, and you just start to enjoy the day-to-day. Like, wow, today got really easy because my team communicated and we were really organized and all of these pieces came together, and it was like this moment of bliss. And I think what I've learned, the most important thing, especially with business and kind of life, and especially for females, is that it is underrated what it means when you yourself, even if it has nothing to do with what you want to do for success or for business or for your body, if you give yourself joy in very small ways. I have so many people that avoid the things that give them the most joy because it doesn't feel relevant to what they're currently doing. So, for example, like I have a motorcycle, which is, I avoided riding my motorcycle for 6 years, which is crazy because I felt like I didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I see this all the time. People are like, well, I used to paint and I just don't paint anymore. Or I used to swim and I just don't swim anymore because I'm trying to be a better business person. I'm trying to be a better boss.
Depriving yourself of joy doesn't making your journey tougher than it needs to be doesn't make you a better, tougher person for persevering through that.
For sure. Yeah. We do it because we don't feel like we deserve it. We feel like, we don't have enough time for it. But what I found is if I switch that story and I make sure every single day, even if it's 10 minutes, it could be an hour, sometimes it's a full day. But if there's at least one thing a day that brings me utter joy, like it could be my cat or tarot cards or a motorcycle ride, it is transformative what it has done for my career.
And I think, again, talking about comparison, you have to be able to say, well, you're going to ride your motorcycle. That's terrifying to me. So my joy is I'm going to go like snuggle my niece and nephew, or I'm going to go like watch a trash TV show and like not feel bad about it. But everyone has a different way to get joy. And I think it, to your point, it is so important for maintaining, mental health, but also in my experience, the physical health of my training. If I'm depriving myself of smiles and happiness, my stress levels are way too high. My injury levels go up.
Yes.
You have to find the joy for sure.
And I think it's so important for females, especially because the doing is such a masculine trait, right? We have a little bit of both, which is wonderful. That's how the world works. But masculine is very do. And as soon as you get stuck in the story of I don't have time to just be and relax and enjoy, because joy comes from being. It doesn't come from doing, right? It's like really being present. And so when you look at what that is with being, it's all feminine energy. And that was the hardest for me to access because I was like
the tomboy,
like do more. What can I create? What can I go? It was always a challenge. And I was like, this is killing my body. What really was happening with burnout and adrenal dysfunction is exactly what you just said. The cortisol was through the roof. Injury rate is going up because it's breaking down all the things that you're working hard to keep together. And all of a sudden you realize that it was like right in your face that if I say I want to actually be the best, it means I have to nourish my soul.
For sure.
Like that's so cool that we can be able to have both of those components.
And you're putting so much of yourself into your businesses, or I put so much of myself into my running and performance. Like it's easy to put so much into that external view.
Yeah.
The things that people see and not focus on the inside. But going back to the business, all 5, do you have any new goals or growth or exciting things that you can share? I know your brain, you're thinking 10, 12 months ahead, but is there anything more in the short term that's a goal for yours that you want to share?
It's so fun for me because having 5 businesses was never my intention. Being a trainer wasn't even my intention, right? It was just, I see a need for something, I can fill this gap. And that's how the backpack company came around. That's how the tea company, that's how the gym. It was just, there's a space that I think could be better. Let me fill it.
Something that you personally
want
to use and yeah.
Yes. And it's so fun because each one of them are going to grow so differently. So I'm in constant learning mode and, how can I really make this as authentic and feminine as possible? I don't want to do anything that doesn't feel really right. And so for me, it's growing all 5 of them in their own perfect ways. I want the team to grow organically. I want to really see these as, I don't want to ever have it clumped in together. I think they could all be incredible brands separate of each other. So that's a little more long-term, but physically, it's just honestly constantly balancing. I have to have things to train for. I'm a competitor. No matter what it is, I want to compete. And so picking and choosing kind of when I can do that and when I can't, which if I did it full time, I just wouldn't be able to with the work that I have. But it's so fun to find the things that are really complementing my body and complementing my business. So instead of being hardcore CrossFit competing like I used to be. It's been, let me just isolate Olympic lifting and compete in Olympic lifting, which has been so fun. Definitely a different type of mindset. And then looking at powerlifting, just making sure I'm signed up for something because I have to be. I never will not be able to just chill. But knowing that I have things to train for and I can complement it with the ebbs and flows of big business launches and new product launches. And as my team grows, it's pretty cool to feel like I can let some of the stuff go that I used to have to, hold on to and latch on to make sure it survived. It's been really cool to see that growth.
Yeah, for sure. And so we talked about this, but, and you just mentioned it, but the balance between mind and body, I mean, we both have a lot of experience of trying to, of knowing the connection as an athlete. Obviously you have to be so aware of your body and how it moves and what you put into your body and how all of that feels and that connection, and then also the mindset behind everything and that approach. How have you experienced that with, competitions and training and balancing, that connection a little bit more?
Oh, man. I think your body, all your cells hear every single thought. And so it's so powerful to realize that, I'm a huge believer in the right supplements. I'm a huge believer in the right food and, of course, the right training program. But your mental capacity is everything. And so it could be you're not enough, you're not worthy, you need to try harder. Or it could be I'm the shit, I'm a boss, I am crushing it, I'm really proud of this. And I used to live in kind of this left field of just, if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't good. And so learning that the more I incorporate this kind of self-talk, even if I tell my clients, fake it till you make it, right? Totally. One of my favorite things is if you don't have this kind of list of go-tos of things that you like about yourself, even if they're simple, and it can't be character traits that are involving other people. So it can't be that you're a good mom or a good teacher. Like, what is something that you are proud of? So asking someone, hey, what do you think about when you think of me? What are some character traits that I have that you love and you admire? And you really receive it because we're so good at deflecting.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, oh, that's not me, or maybe, but.
Or, oh, no, you too.
You too. Like, it doesn't matter. Compliments are really hard for people to receive, but we have to learn how to receive them because there's no real giving unless there's receiving. And so we get burnt out because we're giving. And the receiving is there. We just kind of have blocked it from happening. So I say receive those compliments and then start to try to see them in yourself, because anybody you admire, anybody you look at and you're like, wow, that person's awesome, there's a part of them that you have as well. Just like anything that you don't like about people is usually a trigger for something that you don't like about yourself. The mirror is the same when you're looking at people that you love and respect. And so when you realize you have so many more traits and qualities that you probably need to give yourself more credit for, you can change a lot more of how you walk in the world, how you show up, how you train, how excited you are to do the things, finding joy in the present and in the journey versus in the final destination. Without that kind of process that I've had, I would still be I would just be a miserable, stressed out, entrepreneur that just had no idea what they were doing and in living in chaos, because that's what I was doing. And it was so fun to be like very vividly realizing my creativity is unlimited when I finally allow myself to receive and to just be. And it's so cool because I had 2 businesses before I realized that. And so now to be able to do it in a different way without feeling like I had anything to prove, letting it happen organically, just saying, I see this and I can do this. I believe that I can do this. The stress is less, and it's a process that I really enjoy versus I'm only going to enjoy it unless it gets acquired, or I'm only going to enjoy it unless it gets to this amount of sales, right? So it's a really beautiful thing that I think all of us can do in the gym, in our job, in whatever we're doing, is like immediately change what you say when you look in the mirror and replace it with
positive.
Something. Yes, because your cells feel it and hear it, and everything that I see when it comes to adrenal dysfunction, gut issues, skin issues, thyroid issues, 90% of it is stress related. And I think that stress is our own doing because we're so caught up in our head. We overthink everything. It's all good intention. We're always looking to be better and we're always looking to improve. But so many times we forget that we have the tools ourselves. We don't need to outsource. So we're looking, and all of a sudden we're spread so thin.
Right.
And so it's like, bring it back home. What do you have that you admire? And remind yourself of that every single day.
I love that. That's awesome. When you are giving yourself this positive talk, do you relate it to any future goals you want to achieve? Like, I want to talk about gains versus goals. Goals being more of the big pie in the sky dream, and gains being the little steps you take to get there.
Yeah.
So how do you approach those things, and how does that positive self-talk incorporate?
God, I used to only look at the goals. I used to only look at big picture. I will be happy when I'm at the top of that mountain. And it really drove me to just, it felt like death.
Yeah.
You know? So it was saying, okay, well, how can I create more and be healthier? Because I'm not done at 2 businesses. I'm not done at 5. You know, I have so much more that I want to do, but the way I do it has to completely shift. And so the biggest thing is understanding, we have kind of these big visions and big goals, but what I can do today, even though it feels so insignificant, it's just like somebody going to the gym for the first time. And so when I look at my clients, she has never done a squat before. So I'm like, okay, perfect. We're doing an air squat. And I'm so proud of her for doing 20 air squats by the end of the session.
Right.
Why am I not that proud about it for myself? It might be in a different context, but it's the exact same thing. You know, we give to the people in our life and the people that are around us and the people that we want to help, yet we refuse to help ourselves. And so it's saying every time I do something, and I have this kind of thing that I do every night that's really been helpful. So this might be helpful to somebody, but I actually go through my schedule every night when I shower, and I just think of everything I did that day. And I think about how I felt when I finished it. Did it make me feel energized? Did it make me feel tired? If it made me feel tired, I probably shouldn't do it again. So
Right.
I try to get it out, unless it's one of those training sessions you just have to get through. And I think it's this really fun process where all of a sudden I'm being present and realizing I did so much, because I usually go so fast and I just am in bed ready to go for the next day that I forget how much I'm doing every single day, right? If we listed everything out we did, we would look at it and be like, damn, I'm a superhero. You know,
well, I think when you have 5 businesses and training on top of that, that's probably how you feel. If you looked at my to-do list, you'd be like, ran 15 miles, watch Bravo.
15 miles though.
But it's only, that's one thing. And then it's like, yeah, I chilled.
But how well you did it, right?
No,
so...
I agree with going through your list and thinking, oh, I did that interview, or I did that, meet and greet, and oh, that was exhausting, or that was super fun, or I met with those kids and that was great. I should do that more, and I should say no to this. I agree that you should probably do a little bit more reflection on those gains to see, is that gain worth it to get to that goal, or is there a different gain that I can work towards to try and get to that goal? Yeah.
Because I think what I find, especially with athletes, we are addicted to resistance. We love the struggle because it means that we are going to succeed at some point, because that's how we have succeeded.
I hate easy runs. I just want to have workouts all the time.
I want it to be raining. I want it to have some hail.
Uphill, all directions.
Oh, you'll be way ahead of me, but agreed, because it's just this process in our head that we think in order to have success and in order to feel good or successful, there has to be some level of grind. And I think that is the hardest habit to break, of saying, okay, well, this is what I did in my schedule. I did all these things. It's do, right? It's still that kind of concept of masculine energy and drive. So what can we do that puts us into that feminine energy, that makes us feel like we can be, that makes us feel like we can literally be just present and still worth it? And I think it's kind of this story that is still a process for me, because I am such a competitor. But when I sit and kind of just do the things that bring me joy, that don't make any sense, whether it's take a bath or say no to the thing that gave me kind of anxiety, but I did it anyway, or said yes to things. what I'm trying to say is basically we say yes to so much because we think we should do it.
Right.
And when we say yes to the things that don't make sense on paper, things match up and line up really quickly. So a lot of that for me is simply boundaries and recognizing what actually felt good at the end of the day. And those little moments, all of a sudden it's like, wow, that actually did add up. And
right.
It's hard. I think it's so much easier said than done.
And some of the bad things you have to do, they're unavoidable. But yeah, if you can minimize that, for sure.
Yes.
So to wrap up today's great conversation, thanks for the fun. I also loved getting my goddess card. It's perfect. So to wrap up, give any of the women watching some last minute advice. I think we've covered a lot, but advice for their own health, their own bodies. I think finding joy is a big part of it. Not comparing is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Not being do. But is there anything else we didn't touch on that you think specifically for women, women in sport, to do for their health and wellness?
I think it's saying, I guess if nothing else, that energy is just as powerful as activity. And so when we're looking at the things we're doing and the training we have or the lists we want to accomplish, we also need to add as much weight to the people in our life that make us feel drained or make us feel happy, to the things in our life that make us feel joyful or make us feel exhausted. If we don't give as much credit to those moments and to that energetic side, that woo-woo side, we will always end up out of balance because we give so much credit to the do in society and in culture. That is what is rewarded.
Right.
But the best reward is when you are at the end of the day just happy. You're not chasing anything. You're not feeling like you aren't enough. You aren't feeling like, once again, got more to do and I didn't get enough done. It's finally saying, I know I showed up with everything I had and I gave it my best. And I don't think you can do that because I've tried it, with multiple different therapists and multiple different avenues, right? You can't do it unless you sit down with yourself and really think of that triangle of, all right, I'm doing, but am I feeling? Do I know how I feel today? Do I know what it feels like to feel that kind of contentment and pride, not exhaustion after a workout? Did I push it too much? Am I even doing this because I actually want to, or because it's the story I have in my head that I have to? We are meant to change and evolve, and we never give ourselves credit and we never give ourselves opportunities to do that. And so many times I was the trainer or just the nutritionist. I was the fitness person. Women's Health Magazine, woohoo, let's lift weights with Emily. And I'm like, that is so a tenth of who I am.
Right.
And if I didn't say, you know what, I want to bring the side into it in some way, I would have always been burnout because I was denying a side of myself that was so important to me, but didn't quite fit to other people. And so we have these expectations. We have to show up as a certain someone, but the way you should show up is your 1,000% you. And when you do that, you inspire people to do that as well. But you also give yourself space to not just be a doer, but to say, this is how I feel. And I know this to be true. And I'm not just in my actions and all of a sudden looking at my social media account or my business and not feeling like it reflects who I am.
Right.
And so giving ourselves that flexibility and that motility to, like, you can evolve and change. You have permission to do it and you're supposed to do it. If you're not doing it, then we need to challenge ourselves maybe in a different capacity, but never get stuck in that small kind of, this is who I am and this is the way it's going to be.
And don't deprive yourself of motorcycle rides if you need them, and don't, just find happiness. And I think you said this earlier, and I think it's such a great message to give to people, is that woman that comes to your gym that's never done a squat before and you're so proud of her for doing 20 squats. I just think if we're just talking about health and wellness, just starting small and doing a little bit, whether that's a little bit of, some squats or a little bit of self-reflection or, just trying a little bit, start small and try and move and try and find joy and try and not just do the things that people think you should be doing. I think sometimes people, especially women, put so much pressure on themselves to be perfect and to be the image that other people want them to be. And they're so intimidated by that sometimes they are paralyzed with staying in what they're doing or not trying something new or not moving or not, self-reflecting. Yes. And so just start small and it's okay,
Yeah. I think it's so, what you just said, I'm just going to go on a tangent because I think so many times our, insecurities are the reasons we're not trying new things because we're so worried of how it might feel or how it might look. And so if we're not in a place of, I really truly just want to express who I am and express my body, if we're kind of in this box, it's like, of course we're not going to try new things. Of course we're not going to want to take a Zumba class or want to go to try snowboarding for the first time or whatever it might be because we're in this kind of sheltered place. And so I think that's really important is like, your insecurities are your limiting factor. We have to let those go. And when we realize we all have them, we're not on our own island. We literally all have insecurities. It's just if we choose to let them dictate our quality of life or not.
Right.
And that's so powerful to say, like, I choose joy over what my pants look like when I do this squat.
We all have stretch marks.
do.
Don't let that be something that holds you back.
It's so true.
We all have insecurities. We all have things. And it's like, it's whether you let it define you or stress you out or affect your day. Like, no, that's not, your stretch marks don't define you. Your pant size don't define you. You just do your best.
Yeah. And I think when you are looking at something like, okay, I want to be a better me. I want to try something different. I think it's always about, I think it's just our ability to say that, that doesn't even actually go with your question.
Well, now we're just riffing.
We're
done with questions. We're done with questions. Now we're about to wrap up, but cool. It was just to say, women are awesome.
We really are.
Do your best, and we're all great.
And I think I guess this is like the last. I'll just say it because I almost said it, so I might as well. I found that the most profound shift that I had was learning how to sit still in my own body. So whether that's meditation or whether that's like, sitting on a porch listening to this beautiful river, like when you find yourself feeling like you have to distract yourself with training or your phone or the next new thing, that is kind of the first sign of we're trying to get away with something that's not in alignment. We're trying to be someone we're not, or we're trying to get away from somebody that we are. And so the more that I sit with myself and let those feelings come and go and let those feelings happen and learn how to meditate and learn how to help the crazy brain be a little calmer, the more those things of alignment and feminine and being, those foreign words start to not feel as foreign. So I sound all like woo-woo and hippie and self-righteous of like, just be more present. But I'm a total nut job, like, let's be honest. So it's very much this work in progress.
But it's something that's worked for you. And that's another thing is like, what works for each person is different, but that clearly has worked for you. And you've found so much peace and a ton of success, both with, your physical achievements and your businesses. And it's obviously something that has worked. And it'd be great if everyone tried it out a little bit. I should meditate. I never have. It's something I should probably do.
I have to get you to meditate.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that after this.
We'll do that.
Thank you, Emily, for coming on I'm thirsty.
To the Nuuness.
To Nuuness TV. And tune in for more episodes. And thanks for joining us.